Hi, this is David Dale, District Engineer for the Borrego Water District. I'm here to go over a video of the existing tanks and to describe how the tanks work and what we believe may be wrong with the existing tanks and why we need to replace them. So you see the cameras coming down. We're about to put the camera in there. Basically, every 3 years, the water district contracts with a company, a private company, to come out and send a robotic drone down into the tank. It's chlorinated and it's disinfected so it doesn't affect the water supply. You see the drone going into the tank now, and what we're doing is we're going to inspect the inside of the tank and see what we've got there. The outside of the tank, as you saw in the beginning of the video, looked pretty good. It needs to be painted, but it's not in bad condition. It's the inside of the tank that we're more concerned with because of corrosion that can cause the tank to catastrophically fail. As we're looking down at the wall now, you see starting to see rust accumulating on the side walls of the tank. This tank is basically a galvanized tank. There's a galvanized protection coating on the inside of the tank that's supposed to protect it from rusting like this. But these tanks typically have a lifespan of, say, 30 years, 40 years, something like that. These tanks have been in there much longer than that. So we would expect to see the tank starting to corrode, starting to fail. And you can see these are the joints there on the side of the wall. And these joints are heavily corroded, and that's the major concern. You see the joint there is super corroded. You're supposed to be able to see the bolts that protrude through, and you can't see them anymore. But you can see the floor there, and you can see patches of corrosion where the galvanized protection layer has failed. And you can see the bolts which bolt the tank together. Typically a tank like this is a bolted tank, is not usually fixed or repaired, although it can be at times depending on the condition of the tank. These tanks are meant to be replaced really for these bolted tanks because it's more expensive to try to fix them than it is sometimes to replace them, and especially if they get to this condition. And you can see the floor here of this tank. Most likely what we're seeing is holes in the bottom of the tank and water being able to escape back into the ground in this particular tank. Now that is the center post that you're looking at. That center post looked pretty decent, but the floor has got some serious problems, and the side walls, especially the joints where the bolts connect those panels, are in very bad condition, and that's why we've recommended to the board that these tanks, there's two of them. This is what we call the twin tanks. What we have recommended that these tanks be replaced because they're in such poor condition. We're concerned that there may be at some point a catastrophic failure due to those joints being so corroded. If one of those joints completely fails, the water will completely come out, and we'll have a really bad problem because we've tried to operate the system without these two tanks and it doesn't work very well. There's some really low pressures that we're seeing in the distribution system when these tanks are offline. So these tanks are very, very important. And you can see that this joint there is really, really bad. Really concerned about these tanks. A little earthquake or a little motion or shock or wind, we're concerned that this tank could catastrophically fail. And so is the same condition of the tank to the south. This is the north twin tank and there's a south twin tank. This just shows you more and more corrosion. It's apparent to me that this tank cannot be repaired, financially feasibly repaired. It would cost more to repair it than it would be to just take it down, demolish it, and replace it. If the whole wall looked like this, I think we could recommend just what they call sandblasting and recoating. That wouldn't be a problem, but being the joints are in such poor condition, The concern is that once you start sandblasting them, or basically cleaning the walls off, they would blast holes in the tank, and they would have to be replaced anyway. And if you're wondering, why do we even need tanks? I can go into that a little bit. We pump water out of the ground and we pump it into these storage tanks, and these tanks are at a particular elevation or a level in the earth that they allow for water to pressurize our system just from gravity. Also, if we were dependent fully on just wells and no tanks, then it would be very difficult to maintain a standard pressure. The pressure in your system would increase dramatically when the pumps went on, and they would decrease dramatically when the pumps turned off. So tanks at these elevations basically stabilize the water pressure in your system.